Yes, you guys, welcome back. Today I'm joined by a very special guest in Eunice Talks Football. Of course, you guys are watching Eunice, and today I felt like it was time to have a conversation on where our season is currently at, what we're currently doing on the Graham Potter, and what the future actually holds in store for us. So, without wasting any more time, Eunice, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, it feels weird now. We were just talking about World Cup starting. I'm prepped, although it actually, weirdly, despite Chelsea being really, really, really off form, it actually feels good to be talking Chelsea for the first time in 2 days.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean?
Tell me about
So,
it. This still feels like really surreal that we've got a World Cup during
yeah.
winter. I'm just really curious to see what the reaction is going to be like once the World Cup's over. I feel like if you're a player, you get to the World Cup final, you lose on penalties, that's going to affect you mentally during the season. I don't care what anyone says. That type of hurt it's gonna take a while to heal. I mean, we saw Jorginho, how long it took him to come back from, obviously his escapades with the Italian national team. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like next season in the Prem, on like a different side, we are going to see like different changes with the current top four. Like I'd be surprised if Arsenal can sustain it after the World Cup. I'll be curious to see if they can still do it. But
Me too.
we're not
Me
here to
too.
talk about that, you guys. We're here to talk about our season. We're here to talk about Graham Potter. And I guess the first thing to ask you, Eunice, what is the main one thing that you think is the big issue you're seeing with our current form and what we're seeing for this season?
I mean, it's difficult to answer in terms because we know the different issues that we've had, not just this season, but prior seasons, which is kind of all accumulated. But bearing in mind that we have a new manager that's coming, and you can only you can only use what's in front of you. The first thing is for us to establish some sort of an identity or some sort of a connection between manager and players
Yeah.
is the first thing, because new managers normally walk into a job, and even with prior problems or prior circumstances, like with us, we've got signings from various managers, we've got players that are used to various different types of ways of playing football.
Yeah.
And the first thing that I'd like to see is some sort of a connection, because as I've said, when a new manager normally walks in, there's a honeymoon period, right? There's a bounce back, there's some sort of a nice chemistry or nice feel, at least temporarily, before you get into the real deep issues that are already in the team. This one was either non-existent or very, very short-lived. And when I see players making blatant mistakes, or even on a tactical level, but on an individual level, basic errors or lack of commitment or lack of movement, I'm looking to Potter and I'm seeing no reaction, nothing. So my first thing would be that.
No, for sure. I definitely get the concern. But if I was to ask you,
Yeah.
if you were to put this in a percentage, like how much is this percentage based on Potter and how much is this based on like the players?
In the short term, I'm definitely looking to Potter to do something, but in the long term, no. We know the issues that are in this squad. So on a percentage level, if you're talking at least for the season, you're probably looking, I'd say 70-30 or 60-40 on the players.
Okay, so you feel like the players take a lot of responsibility for what's
100%.
happening. Okay,
I mean,
for sure.
well,
I feel,
in the long run, at least, I feel like Potter
Yeah.
can help the process short term. We know that he's going to want his team, his players, his way. That will
Yeah.
take time. But I would love to see a foundation built first, a reaction to what is going on now, or some sort of effort to try and correct what you have control of now, because we
Yeah.
can't go and buy everyone now. It's impossible. So
Sure. And I feel
Yeah.
like it's interesting because I'd probably say like it's probably 60% on Potter and maybe 40% on the players in the sense
Yeah.
that if I was
Oh,
a footballer on that
I
field,
agree. In the short term, for
Yeah.
right now, yes. In the long term, or at least up until the end of the
for
season,
sure, we need to see some changes.
there has
We'll
to
touch
be
upon them soon for
responsibility.
what we've got to see in the future. But
Yeah.
it's weird because on one hand, I understand obviously the difficulties Potter's facing. I think when you're missing key players in such a short amount of
Yeah.
time, that's not going to help anyone at
No.
all. And I feel like because of that, he's been constantly forced to maybe make a lot more tweaks than he'd originally wanted. We looked at how Sterling and Pulisic were playing as wingers. They weren't even playing as wing backs. They were playing like a formation we've never seen before. And I can get the thinking because it's like, okay, I have no attacking threat for my wing backs because they're out.
Yep.
We need to bring some wide threat if we're going to have the ball wide. Let's see what these guys can do. But obviously, against a good team like Brighton, they just done us differently out wide on the flanks. And I feel like on them ones, it's like more on Potter. But even though I understand, I sympathise because he wouldn't have done it originally. It makes it hard for the players when there's no real like momentum to really build ideas. And then like if it's the next game going on and you're playing a different way, which we are seeing. There's some games where we press a bit higher. There's other games where we drop back a bit deeper. There's other games that we're doing a bit of both. And when you've got guys like Aubameyang up front who isn't going to press for anything at all in his life, it makes it hard to like find like a consistent balance, knowing that at least if I've got my top players in the team right now, that's going to mask over a lot of cracks. If Reece James is playing, that right hand side instantly goes up 2, 3, 4 folds. You know what I mean? So I feel like he definitely is suffering from that. But at the same time, I think he could do a little bit more in the short term now. I feel like keeping things a bit simple and basic. I think that's the way to go. I feel like sticking to one way, allowing some momentum to be built, because otherwise, listen, we know some of these individuals could probably step up a lot more, but you're going to make their lives a lot harder when every single week they're playing with a different teammate, they're playing a different type of way. It's not going to.
You ain't going to build chemistry. You're not going to build chemistry or consistency at all that way. Absolutely. And that's one of my criticisms that I've had for Graham Potter alongside. I've had two main criticisms on Graham Potter. One being that there's zero reaction during a game, or at least even when you look game to game in the process, you know, during those days where you expect some sort of change in not just attitude. I don't doubt the players' attitude in terms of they're just going to down tools or not be bothered. But when players can only look towards a touchline or look at their manager, and if they're not getting a reaction, they think it's okay. Do you know what I mean? So I'm looking for some sort of a reaction, because when we're looking at some of these performances, it's dead, it's flat, there's no identity. We're trying to move the ball forward, we have to go back because there's no movement. But it comes from the point you just made. If players feel lost, or there's no chemistry, or there's no build of chemistry at all, not even, you know, step by step, that's obviously going to be on the point that it keeps chopping and changing. So I fully agree.
For sure. And I feel like even that point you made, I feel like this is why things have got a lot worse a lot quicker, because I have felt like maybe over the past maybe 18 months, 12 months in particular, we've seen this slow decline a little bit. If you were to like solely judge the, you know, prior results past 12 months, looking at it on a results basis, it's going to be a different context. But when you look at the performances in which we got a lot of these points and these wins, you know, they were really laboured, they were really poor. And I feel like there's one thing in this Chelsea team I have not seen in a few years now that I've seen in every top team, and what I used to see here, and that is like that attacking type of instinct, that cohesion, that chemistry. It doesn't exist. No. I don't see the type of passes, like, you know, remember like Drogba and Lampard, that type of telepathic relationship where you need players on the field to do that. That's why you spend the big money on these guys, because of course the managers, they give you the framework, but there's only so much they can do. You know, you're hoping they give you the right framework so the players can, you know, make it happen for themselves. And like going back to like Drogba and Lampard, their relationship, Lampard knew exactly when to play balls to Drogba. Drogba knew exactly what to time his run. They had that trust in terms of this is how we can play together. And I feel like that's the one thing we have not seen here in probably 2 years. You see it in the attack. There is no real identity or cohesion. You know, it feels like I see players making the most obvious passes every single time, a lot of safe passes, a lot of obvious ones.
Yes.
And it's more like grinding to get the result compared to playing beautifully. And listen, the times we scored a few goals, you know, and people will look at, we scored 70-something goals. We've got 13 goals versus like Norwich and Southampton, and like freak games that for me, you can't really, like, they weren't the standards. You know, they were like freak results, you know. Like in the past 10 games before the season ended, it took us 10 games to score 13 goals that we did in those 2 games versus them. So I do feel like when a team ain't able to really build like a proper momentum in terms of, okay, this is how we're playing, we can build off from these ideas to improve and improve and improve, you hit the stagnation point where I think, for me personally, I'm at a point now where, we need to decide, how do you want to play now? Because
exactly
it's not making sense anymore. We need to commit to it, because if you commit to anything properly, you'll get results playing that way. And really decide, what are we doing? Because, man, this mismatch I'm seeing of some of the seniors, and I'll talk about them later on, some of the young players as well. me personally, Eunice, I don't really feel like the seniors are the type of caliber really to really help the young guys who spent money on really improve and go to the next level. I think they're kind of bottlenecks, to be fair. So I'm kind of okay with most of them leaving at this point in time.
No, it's true. It's true. That point you just made, at least in terms of some sort of cohesion or some sort of understanding, what are we actually trying to do?
Yeah.
You know, this is my point. When you get past managers that walk into a job, you can immediately tell what they're trying to do, even if they don't do it or they were struggling to do it. But you know, it's there. The blueprint is there. Tuchel walked in first day against Wolves. You immediately knew what he was trying to do. Prior managers straight away with Potter, and understandably with some of the circumstances like injuries and whatnot. But I'm lost. I don't know what we actually trying to do here. And when people reference Brighton, I'll just look at Brighton. That's what we're trying to do. Like, we're not Brighton. All due respect, we're not Brighton. I mean, at the moment, it looks like we're trying to be Brighton. We're trying to get every single man, woman, and child from that club. But that's my issue, and that's, I think, the first port of call. In my previews, I normally give a lineup. You've seen them.
Yeah, obviously, I watch the previews.
Yeah, and I know you do the same. I think we all do. And I'm at a point now, and I said it the last match review that I did. Pick whatever 11 you want at this point. They're not performing, or they're not scoring, or at least in the attacking phase, that front line, you can pluck whatever 3 or 4 players you want out of a hat, put them on the pitch. It's the same result. So we've hit that point, and I agree. Now it's about trying to hit a level of understanding what are we actually trying to do, how are we looking to play, and then move from there and get the players that are going to react. The ones that do, great. The ones that don't, start thinking about moving them on.
Real talk, and I guess that moves on to the next point then, obviously, in terms of players underperforming. Who are some of the main ones that might be disappointing you a bit more, or that you're expecting a bit more from, like, at this point in time?
I mean, there's a list. At the moment, there's a list. It's difficult. I don't think there's one player that I feel right now is exactly where he needs to be. Except I can cut slack on maybe the centre backs. Thiago Silva, for example. Fair enough. You know, even a player like Azpilicueta comes on, and you can see that he's given everything he has. You know what he's about, but he doesn't have the tools for it anymore. Do you know what I mean?
Can't do it.
That's understandable. I sympathize with that. Everyone else, Lewis Hall, come on, and for me, for where he is, has done the maximum he could.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting miracles from him. He's 18. Everyone else, I feel, can do better. Everyone. If we're talking about midfield, I feel we can move quicker. I feel we can defend better. I think we can cut off better. I think we can transition quicker. I think we can pass and get into spaces and positions and show movement quicker. I think in terms of the attacking lot, I feel like we can cause more threat. I feel like when we do create chances, we actually do them quite decent. But in terms of putting the ball in the net, we can't shoot to save our lives.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So everyone has issues right now, as far as I'm concerned. And this is where I have to think, I don't believe they're all crap. They can't be. Do you know what I mean? So
it's a weird one, because I kind of feel like this year, like, we've had the advantage over clubs like maybe Arsenal, like even Newcastle now, Spurs, and a few of them, where you're at a high level already, competing on all fronts, trophies, maybe not the league, but still has a success from that. But I felt like we've plateaued, because let's say we're just like flat lines. Over the past few seasons, you know, clubs like Spurs, Arsenal, the rest have slowly been like inclining up and up and up, and it looked like their main competition now that could slowly overtake us this season. And this is what the Premier League does. You can't rest on your laurels. You constantly need to build off what you left behind. And I think because there's nothing to build off from, this is why I feel we're in this situation currently where we could get done out eventually for that. I think maybe that's why Todd Bowley reacted. Of course, Tuchel fell out, he got the sacking. But I do think that Potter was signed for that long term in mind, especially because I think Bowley's trying to build something self-sustainable. He's not trying to create a model where, you know, he'll just throw money irresponsibly, especially if it's not spent towards a vision and plan, which is what you need. And I think that is what football's come down to today for me now. You know, every club has money in the Premier League. Every club can spend money in internationals, offer big wages. It's getting a bit deeper behind how you can actually even sign these guys out, because I don't even think money is fully enough. So, like, I saw it with Liverpool, I'm seeing it with Arsenal. It just feels like, for me, long term is key. where maybe it'll be like uncharted territory for us. I still think we've got the talent here to. It won't take as long to turn things around like what it did at Brighton, because at Brighton, you know, he took over Chris Hughton's team, got rid of the players. Second season, they were playing the football but couldn't score. The third season, everything was making more sense, and then fourth season, they're looking quite sick now. So I do think that Potter knows exactly what he's doing, and I think he's got the confidence to be able to do that. But I just think, for me, the only way we can really get there is by getting rid of a few guys. And touching upon the point I made about the players underperforming, I gotta say it's at midfield. I just don't think our midfield gets into any top midfield in the world. I'm sorry. People have been saying I'm harsh, but I need to just speak my truth, man. I think Kovacic has really not improved at all. He's not gone to the next level, and I just think that he's someone that is squad at best. Jorginho, he's got his strengths, but I feel we have to play a different way, which doesn't really involve Jorginho's strengths anymore, because
I agree. Yeah.
I see players suffering on their fields, and for me, I'm looking at my Mounts, the Gallaghers. The guys are always playing a different position every single week. Like, if you're going to be giving them long-term contracts to get them to stay, they need to be in an environment where they can improve and go to the next level. And I just don't think I'll see these guys becoming elite, playing this attacking mid role, which, bro, like, we don't have any 1v1 threat. Our best chances come on the transition and the counter-attack. There's no creativity like that, because we're using guys out of position to supplement, for me, a midfield that needs too much protection, but doesn't really offer too much in terms of anything offensively.
I completely agree, and this is why when I a couple of days ago saw the sort of players that we're linked with, at least that we're going to try and move for first, I'm thinking, where's the midfield? You know, we're linked with Rafael Leao, cool. Yeah. Trossard, cool. All of those attackers and whatnot, yeah, absolutely. Ivan Toney, no worries. But you just know they're going to come to Chelsea and probably face the same issues if we don't address the midfield. And I feel like the midfield needs to be addressed defensively and offensively. I feel like a proper, decent, good standard defensive midfielder is so urgently needed in this squad now.
Eunice, why do you feel like some people are like against the idea of like a DM? I feel like to some people that's like a dirty word, wanting to sign a DM.
I don't understand. I don't know if people were under the concept that maybe Kante was it, and therefore now he's not playing. We're trying to just move away from the whole concept of a DM. Like, no. Yeah. We now understand the amount of protection that our defense needs, and not just that the midfield in front of that DM can fill in terms of being released to go and move forward. If we have a DM that's solid enough and can, play that role, all of a sudden we've got 8s actually playing as 8s.
Exactly.
For the first time in flipping ages.
God knows how long, man? Since Lampard or something, right?
Probably since Lampard, yeah. So
like, we have
I think that's key.
Number 8s too. Like, it doesn't, like, we have all the guys in the senior
We've got way
team,
too many 8s.
and we got all the young ones we signed, like Chukwuemeka, Kasadi, and that. So
we've got way too many. Exactly, yeah, exactly. And that will help eventually with rotation where we need to, and we know the quality's there. Yeah. But it also gives us an outlet, because whenever we try and attack, there's no midfielder involved in any sort of an attack at all. It's always the wingers and the striker up top.
Every time.
And when they get cancelled out, that's it. They get a chance to shoot, they can't shoot. We ain't scoring.
Yeah, exactly. And people bring up stats like, oh, but look at the progressive passing from Kovacic and Jorginho. But my thing is, listen, are we not watching us play every single week yet? It doesn't really matter if you're moving the ball, 10, 20 meters. If the pass you're playing means that the winger or wing back has to play the pass backwards, it doesn't make a difference. You're like incrementally moving up the field, not doing too much of anything. And I feel like maybe in Europe, this football works because, number one, knockout football, teams have to open up a little bit to attack. Yep. And that's why we look so sick playing in Europe. Like, lots of teams can't cope against us. But also, I think in European football in particular, is not as physical as the Premier League. And the fact that Pep Guardiola, who for me probably had managed the greatest ever footballing team in terms of this perfection I've ever seen in Barcelona, they were all full of small, low center of gravity players. But when he moves to the Premier League, he's signing 6+ Rodri, 6+ defenders. You're seeing physicality everywhere in that team, because that is what you need to have in this league if you're looking to win something here. And when you look at all the top teams, Liverpool got their physicality and enforcers. City have it. Arsenal have it in Partey. I'm looking at Bayern with their Goretzkas and obviously the whole flipping like muscle regime that these guys go on to bulk up to like Hulk levels.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you can go on.
When we were winning, we had it.
We did, and that's our best ever period, probably. Your Ballacks, your Lampards, your Essians, your Mikels. You need that. That's something that can't be ignored or shied away. You know, football. There's a reason why like guys who are sick at playing 5-a-side and stuff don't always translate their game playing 11-a-side at the real level, because you know you need to have more on top of good skill and technique. That's why footballers are that good, and that's why we watch them. So I feel like we need to definitely embrace that, because as you said before, man, I think there's a lot of players in this team that can be unlocked if there's proper foundations behind them. And I just feel like for too long now, it's just been papering over the cracks, getting a few decent results, but it's just not sustainable. And I feel like now Potter's here, and to be fair, man, I don't see any manager improving things. Even if Tuchel was here, I see Tuchel struggling as well. Maybe he might not lose 4 games on the bounce, but he's getting a few more draws and maybe a few more losses.
No, completely. And this is where I think we turn to. I think under Tuchel there was still quite a big portion of the fan base that were going, yeah, you know what, we have to ride through this. Cool, let Tuchel build, let him build. We now know in terms of why things fell out between him and Potter, and that's not necessarily to do with anything on the pitch. It's off the pitch and whatnot. Graham Potter needs to, at least in the short term, Tuchel described it perfectly on that podcast that he went on. You know, you have a process, but you have results. And if results are not coming in, people lose faith in the process. That's just the way it is now in modern day football. So Potter in the short term needs to find a way to get something, just something out of some of these lads, impose himself properly, and then we can move from there.
100. I feel like he's probably lucky that there probably is a World Cup now, because when it's over, guys are going to be fit and available, but which he didn't have the luxury of before. So he's probably not too fussed. Hopefully no one gets any bad injuries during this tournament. Touch wood, we'll find out. But I guess just to end with this video, man, obviously it feels like January could be a really helpful part of the season, knowing that when the World Cup's over, literally like a space of a few days when it opens again, and it does feel like we probably will exercise, you know, like our rights to make some signings during that period. Realistically, we can't sign everyone, but if there was a position or two, or as many as you want, what are the ones that we need to sign to address the issues in the team now?
I mean, I sympathize that January, as you know, it isn't easy to sign the best. You borderline can't, unless if you throw your entire bank account at a club during that window.
World Cup too, also going to be even pricier.
That's it. So I would love for us to be able to address the midfield situation. Understandably, I can relate and I can understand if we do leave that for the summer for us to get top quality.
Yeah.
But if there's a way to get that sorted this January, that would be wonderful, because I don't want us to keep playing this way and then we regret towards the end of the season we find ourselves in a position where we're like, what, you know, 8th, 9th, 10th, that no Europe, like that's something that none of us want. It's a possibility though. So I would love the midfield to be addressed, whether it's a DM or creative midfielder. That would be nice. And I'm not going to say just get another striker. I feel like, you know, you look at a player like Aubameyang, for example. He's not rubbish up top, but I feel like going forward, we do need to address that because he's only here for the short term. Honestly, the midfield is where my eyes are at now. We need surgery there, so
I mean, let's see. I mean, I feel like I probably same thing for me. And if there's an opportunity to get a Leao, I mean, the guy still hasn't committed to signing a contract with Milan.
Yeah, that's true.
I was getting the vibe and impression, obviously Bowley's really close with Mendes all of a sudden. They're not close for no reason, you know what I mean? So, and the fact that Leao should have secured his contract before the World Cup ideally, the fact that he hasn't is giving me, I mean, this is like a small sign that, okay, the guy is going to be available, and Milan probably, they have to sell him during January, because otherwise his contract will wind down very soon. And then he'll be going for peanuts. So this is their last time to probably get like a good 85 mil for him. And I think like signings like that, you got to sign so no one else gets, in my opinion. And the fact that he's a guy adding 1v1 threat is key for me.
100%.
My God, every team has guys that can get past their man. The teams on our level that we're competing against, they have those players. We don't. We keep using
We don't at all now.
midfield players in attack, and they got to do everything from defending to bringing guys into the game, supporting. It's too much. It doesn't make sense. It's just a bit silly at this point in time now. Someone with 1v1 threat can transform this team and midfields, but I think the options are quite hard. Maybe Casado. I know that Liverpool are looking at him right now. It'd be hard to see what we could do in that position in particular, but hopefully Kante back soon at least, or maybe using Zakaria, for God's sake. I'm not really understanding what he's doing too wrong, to be honest with you. I feel like
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Listen, even if Zakaria is like a 5 out of 10 DM, if that means that guys can play box to box and then become like 7, 8 out of 10, that is just an overall boost for the whole team. You know what I
agree.
mean? So I'm hoping something like that happens at least. But yeah, I think January is going to be key. You'd imagine that Potter, Barley and Cora, they've got some options and ideas on what's going to happen. But I just hope that it's going to be signings that are part of a plan and not just like opportunistic ones. Because like even going back to what you said about Aubameyang, obviously he's not a crap player, but for a team that's always struggled to really be that creative, you're signing a guy that exclusively relies on service. I mean, we saw that game, was it Man United? We had like 8 touches of the ball. Of course he's gonna look worse if you can't feed him. So they're the type of moves I'm hoping we don't make, because it's gonna add to the problem even more. You know what I mean? So
True.
yeah, let's hope that some movements can happen. And yeah, before we end things, man, is there any like closing final thoughts or conclusions that you want to say?
Honestly, I mean, we got the World Cup now, so it's a good distraction. It's come at the right time for Chelsea. I just hope that in that time, you know, there's a blueprint that is going to be put on the table for everyone to get onto the same page for. I hope that, you know, we're going to identify good targets for January, realistic ones that can come in and do a job. And again, as I've said, I'm looking for a different Potter when we get back, you know, in terms of how he's going to command, at least in the short term, to get something going from the lads that we do have, because that's all he can control. And then I hope results pick up. Hope we get to see an identity start to form. I think that's where we need to begin. So that's the wish for the season. And in the meantime, I hope England go to Qatar and do well. Or we might as well just leave the plane on and you know, see if they come back early. I don't know.
I think either way we're probably winning as Chelsea fans, to be fair. But
yeah, it's true.
Yeah, but yeah, let's hope that, you know, things come back. But I'm gonna sound very cynical, yeah. Even if we didn't get Champions League football, I think it'd be like a humbling experience in the sense of like, you know, we've been taking like the lack of like a proper plan for granted. Like it was going to catch up eventually. Now we got more teams in the league who are like 2 years in their process now. We're not 1 year into anything, but still we've been year 0 for the past 3 seasons now. So like I could see if it didn't happen because the other teams are just a lot stronger as a team, not individuals, but as a team, then I could accept that, but I've been watching us for years, you know what I mean? But that's probably a different topic for another day.
This is the thing.
It has to right now, thinking
it has to be done right. You know, it's not a case like before where you could just, you know, you can walk with emotions. Now football has become business, money, results, and if it means that you have to get it done right, even if you have to give it a chance, but it has to be done correct. When you're looking at Newcastle building the way they are, some of the other teams that have climbed, Arsenal have got into a position no one expected. You don't want to get overtaken and then left there. Even if we get overtaken for a season, but we know we're building towards something that is going to take us to the next level, fair enough, that's cool. But when you're unsure and you can still see things going wrong a year or two down the line and you're stuck down there, that's going to be new territory for us. So I hope we don't get there.
It's going to be let's not even think that far ahead. I'm not even feeling comfortable even thinking about that. But anyway, Yunus, of course, you guys know where to find him. Yunus Talks Football. There'll be channel links in the description. Card above. Make sure you check out his latest videos that have dropped. And you guys, on that note, I'm Nini FC. This is Blue Lions TV. Catch you guys later with some more videos. Cool.